Just a bit of background, APLUSA, we're a healthcare market research company with a 30-year history. We've been conducting studies into atopic dermatitis for several years, and we've recently complemented this with some written articles, a social media study, which, among other things, has put a spotlight on and led us to investigate topical steroid withdrawal. And we want to look deeper into this now, and this brings us to our guest today, to find out firsthand from a patient who knows all about topical steroid withdrawal from their own journey. And that patient is Ruth HOLROYD, author and blogger at What Allergy. So hello, Ruth, and thank you for your time today.
Hi, David. Thank you for giving me the chance to talk about it.
No, it's a pleasure. Well, I guess we'll get straight into the subject, and perhaps, our subject is topical steroid withdrawal. Can you first give us an insight into your usage of topical steroid creams over the years and how you came to the point of stopping taking them?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because there's a charity called ITSAN that try to help you work out how long your journey might be with steroid withdrawal. And who can remember? Like, I can't remember what I used when, how long for, what parts of my body, because sometimes I was a kid. And I think, I was probably about 8 when I was first given topical steroids, mild ones at first, hydrocortisone, and then I would get rebound flares. So then I moved up to Umivate, and you gradually move up the scale and the potency. By the time I was in my 20s in university, I flared up again, and I was then on the really strong stuff, Betnovate, and then Elicon. So, I mean, these are we're told they're fairly safe, and you get a what is it called, like a repeat prescription. Mm-hmm. Keep getting it. Sometimes you have to go and see the doctor about your skin, but they keep giving it to you, and you keep rebounding. And I hope this doesn't happen to everybody, but you get to the point where there were no other options, and now we have some new drugs like immunosuppressants. I tried those too, and they made me really poorly. I got such bad shingles, and there are certain flag conditions that it can trigger, and then you have to come off cold turkey, and you're not supposed to come off these drugs cold turkey, but you have to because you're at high risk when you have shingles of massive complications. And there's other biologic drugs, JAK inhibitors, which work in different ways in the body to kind of stop all of the treatments are a suppression, and none of them are looking at what caused it in the first place. So what caused my childhood eczema, I now know, was loads of contact allergens, food allergens, and stress. I had a stressful childhood, and I think a lot of it, probably 50% of it, comes down to mindset and lifestyle and how you deal with life and what's going on in your life. If you're stressed, even good stress can cause a flare, and we then leap to put a plaster on it. We just want that magic pill cure. And I think, I don't know how or what is going to take to change it, but we need to start being more inquisitive and asking questions and not just suppressing. I really worry about all of these drugs being just to try and push the reaction back into our bodies.
So clearly, you're describing a long history of topical steroids, and that was always the advice you were given. And while you may not have been taking them all the time, every time there was a flare, that's what you turned to. That's what the advice was for you. Yeah. And I wonder, when was the point where you thought, hang on, this isn't right? How did you get to that tipping point of wanting to withdraw and actually withdrawing? I
think the first thing that happened was I was talking about Protopic on my blog. So I've been blogging for years. Somebody said to me, oh, you've got steroid withdrawal. Because Protopic is slightly different to the steroids. It's an immunosuppressant, and it was working wonders for me. It was clearing all this red flaring that I was getting. Like, I couldn't go a week without my steroid creams, and I was getting flaring all over my body. And the Protopic was really helping. And somebody said, you've got steroid withdrawal. And I thought, what's that? Never heard of it. Forgot about it. Looked it up on the internet and thought, no, I haven't got that. And even if I have, there is no way. Like, if you Google steroid withdrawal, it's terrifying. Pictures are horrible. So I just decided then, probably when I was about 42, 43, so about 7 or 8 years ago, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to keep using the drugs. I just thought, I've got to work. I can't do it. There's no way I can just work looking like that. So I kind of dismissed it. And then it kind of just started to get harder and harder to be I just knew something was wrong. There was this voice inside me saying, you are just using this now daily, and you know you shouldn't be, but you know, the minute you stop, it comes flaring back. And I don't know what made me change. I'm not sure. I just remember standing there one day and thinking, I'm just going to do it. And it's a bit like just jumping off a cliff. And I don't know what made me change my mind, but my skin was poorly controlled. So I had the dermatologist saying, yeah, you're still, how much you're not using it enough. Your skin's still bad. And I was using them quite a lot. And I was just terrified. All these drugs felt like experimental, like they were new, putting you onto immunosuppressants and biologics, and the immunosuppressants didn't work. So I just jumped off the cliff. I just thought, okay, I'm going to have to, and I kind of got my life prepared. I left my job. I made sure that I had my household situation sorted out, because I was living with my mum at the time, and I thought there's no way. Some people stay with their parents, but I knew I needed to be on my own to do it. So I just prepared my life and then jumped off the cliff. I don't know why. I just decided that it's enough. I just worried about the future. If I continue to use these things, what would happen to me? Yeah.
So there's a slow dawning, but then a moment of pushing yourself off that cliff by the sound of it. With topical steroid withdrawal, have you ever officially been diagnosed as suffering topical steroid withdrawal?
No. And
tell us about that.
That's really hard, because I have felt a lot of rage and anger at the pharmaceutical industry and at doctors, because that's why I'm in this situation. But it's not their fault. These drugs have been around for a really long time, and I think they used to be a lot milder. The steroids have got much more potent over the years. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like what the problem with steroid withdrawal is that nobody's recognising it. No one is talking about it, and no one will diagnose us. They're just like gaslighting us, telling us we just need to use more of the drug. That's what I'm angry about. I'm angry that these specialists won't listen to us and take us seriously and help us find a way through, because you just get pretty much, I've been, discharged because I'm refusing treatment. They can no longer help me. And that's what happens. So people then just don't see a dermatologist. They have to go through this on their own because nobody is interested. And the dermatologists discharge us. They're busy. They're overstretched anyway. So they're like, well, we have nothing left to offer you, so you can go and do your own thing. And then they've just got this constant stream of people with bad skin. It's a terrible situation.
Sounds awful, yeah. And you feel this will be familiar to others that you know and speak to. So it's really across the board. Is there any recognition of it at all?
I think there are a couple of doctors in America, Dr. Leo and Dr. Marvin Rappaport, who diagnose it and who help people through it. And it's basically a case of time. There are different ways. Like, I think Dr. Leo recommends no moisture treatment.
Right.
And that's quite complicated. I won't go into that now, but your body is addicted to the moisturizers and the steroids, and you have to let it learn how to moisturize itself again. And NMT, no moisture treatment, is really barbaric. And I decided I couldn't do it. It was just too dry. I moisturized throughout. I washed.
Okay.
So you don't wash your skin very much. You don't drink hardly any water, and you don't moisturize. I was like, no, I'm hydrating. I'm going to have baths because that was really comfortable, and I'm going to moisturize. So I just did the exact opposite. But they do have a treatment program there, and in Japan as well, they have clinics where people can go. So I think we're behind the times on that. Okay. And I could get a diagnosis from there. I did go down that route. So you can have a telephone, like we're doing now. You can have a remote meeting with them and get a diagnosis, but it costs hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And I thought, what does that really gain me? It's costing me a lot of money to do this anyway, to go through steroid withdrawal on my own. I'm not earning as much money as I would do because I'm not working as much. And what does that really give me? I know I've got it.
Yeah.
So I haven't done that, but I know some people in the UK have got the diagnosis that way, by going and seeing one of these doctors and paying like £600 or £800, which I think is too much money.
Sure. And so how important do you believe it is for people to get that official diagnosis or recognition of what they're going through, and why exactly? What support might it lead to?
I think it's atrocious that we can't get a diagnosis, because it has now been recognised in this country. The British Association of Dermatology have a statement, and the National Eczema Society have a statement about it. But it's still seen as really rare, and it's still, the line is, it's rare, it only happens in very rare cases, and if you use the medication properly, you won't get it. And whenever we are seen, we're just told we have chronic eczema, very severe eczema, which needs to be treated with even more steroids. And I can't think of another condition where you would go to the doctor and say, I don't think the medicine's working, I'm getting worse, and for them to say, just keep using it, keep using it, keep using more. That just wouldn't happen, would it? It's outrageous.
That sounds right. I know in the social media study that we carried out, there was one quote that I picked up on that Habiba had identified. I'm not sure who from, but the quote was from a patient, maybe even have been you, I'm not sure. But they said, I've had doctors laugh at me, a small minority listen, but only to tell me that I'm wrong. My dermatologist thinks I'm a crazy woman. Yeah. So that kind of encapsulates what you've been saying, really. That rings true for you.
Yeah, my doctor pretty much said, I think we're done here. I'm going back in a year, I've insisted I want to go and see him to show him, and I'm hoping my skin will be a bit better. But yeah, pretty much laughs. He kind of says, you'll be back, and you'll be on the medication. You won't get better like this. It's not possible. You're going to have to use steroids and other drugs the rest of your life. And I just refuse to accept that. I think that's a really horrible thing to say to a patient. You're going to have this for the rest of your life, unless you do it my way.
Doesn't sound helpful in any way, anyway, for what you're trying to do. What kind of symptoms have you had as a result of withdrawal, then, topical steroid withdrawal? And how does living with these very present symptoms, from what I understand, how does that impact your daily life? Could you give us an idea of how it impacts you physically first?
Gosh, at the start, it was, I might get upset talking about it, so I can feel the tears welling up. At the start, it was pretty awful because the body just goes into a real panic. It's so addicted at that point, and it needs these drugs that you're now withdrawing. And for me, some people get an incredible amount of oozing and edema where the body swells up, and I might get this wrong, but I think it's plasma that leaks out of our skin. It's like a clear, stinky, it smells. So you smell like a dead person. You've got this stuff leaking out of your skin. The skin splits open. You get oozing. I had less of that. Some people get that very badly, but I still get it a bit around my neck, but not too bad. You go through flaring cycles of going very red, very, very itchy. The itch is constant and bone deep. The skin then crusts and flakes, like massive flakes, like a lizard flaking off its scales. And this happens daily. Sometimes I would go through the cycle twice a day. Red, flake, it comes off, then it goes red. And when it's red, it's like leaking and oozing, and then it crusts, and then it comes off. So you've got flakes of skin everywhere. I had nerve pain. And the nerve pain I would compare to the pain of shingles. So it's pretty intense, and stabbing pains, to the point where I don't think people going through steroid withdrawal should be behind the wheel of a car, because I nearly crashed my car when I was having this nerve pain. But because we're not diagnosed and no one's looking at this, I took myself off the road because I knew that I was dangerous to drive. I didn't sleep. I could go on. The symptoms are horrific and endless. I'm 3.5 years in now, and it's so much better. I can sleep a lot more. I don't know when it will end, but I'm so much better. My quality of life now, I gave up work at the start, and I just basically went into self-isolation. So I was pretty prepared for COVID when it happened. It's like, hey, I've got this. I can do this. I'm now going out. I'm now doing stuff, but it's mild now. It's still tough.
That's good to hear. Yeah. Thank you for letting us in there. And yeah, if it's painful, please don't feel you have to. But I can see what a huge impact that must have had, and impacting you. You've already said how it impacted on what you could do. Stopping work, for example. What other impact might it have had? Sort of, I presume, psychologically, emotionally, that's going to have a huge impact on you too.
Huge, because not only is no medical professional with you through the journey and taking you seriously, no one else has heard of it either. So, and I shouldn't compare this to cancer, but say you had cancer, everyone knows what that is. Everyone knows what you've got ahead. There is a kind of a timeline for that. And I know it can be fatal, obviously, but no one knows what you're going through. No one understands steroid withdrawal. So it's a bit like going through this thing, and people keep saying to you, yeah, but why are you doing it? Wouldn't you be better off going back on the steroids? There's just this doubt and this terrible worry that you're doing the wrong thing and that you'll never get better. And nobody, apart from people who are also going through it, understands what you're going through. So it's very hard to stick to your guns and to be like, no, I'm doing this for myself. I know it's the right thing. When there's this nagging voice in the back of your head that's going, yeah, but what if it's not? I mean, you can see my face on here now. I'm doing really well now. I can send you photos of what I looked like before. I aged about 30 years. I had all these deep lines on my face and crusting, like a monster. And that's really hard to go out of the house when you look like that. So psychologically, a huge toll. And I think I'm still dealing with some of that.
Sure. That's fantastic to hear that you're 3.5 years down the line and you feel, you are clearly doing better from what you say. So there's been a big change over the year. That must make you feel more positive about what you're doing, I'm sure.
Yes.
How would you describe where you are now?
I think now it feels almost like eczema, maybe, but the symptoms are slightly different to my eczema, like the weird flaky scales that come off and the inflammation and to the crusting scales. It's different to eczema. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm near the end. Like they say, for someone of my age and my usage, it will be 4 to 5 years, and I'm 3.5 years. And over that time, you get good periods. So you'll get periods of relief where your skin's really good and you forget and you think, I'm better. And then you go back into another kind of healing cycle. So it's not 4 to 5 years of hell. It does gradually get better, but
Is it a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of approach? Yeah. Okay. When thinking about withdrawing, you've obviously got experience of it. You've talked to others who've done it. How would you say is the best way to withdraw? I know there are different schools of thought. There's you described jumping off a cliff. That's the initial step. But would you recommend tapering or a full cold turkey? And I know that you can get through it with the help of some other class of product. What has been your experience and what would you recommend?
What would I recommend? I would say do all the research you can and find out everything you can beforehand. There are Facebook groups. There's a lot of people on Instagram. There's a charity called ITSAN. Get all the information you can so you're prepared for it. And then it's a case of healing your own way and trusting that voice that's telling you the steroids are not right. You need to do this. You need to go on this journey. That voice is there all the time. So when you're speaking to your consultant, if they're saying try an immunosuppressant or try biologics, that might be the right thing for you. But for me, that voice was saying no more drugs, no more drugs. But some people find a lot of relief from these other drugs. So it's a case of slowly trying things. Like I tried no moisture treatment and I thought I was going to go crazy. It's very uncomfortable. But some people push through and do that and find that they heal maybe a bit quicker, but then other people do it and are still at 3.5 years, they're still doing no moisture treatment and they're still not healed. So there isn't anything that I've seen that makes people heal quicker. Otherwise I'd be doing it. But there's loads of things you can try. And I think it's hard because I have thrown everything at it. I've tried to fix it and I don't think you can. I think when you start trying things and desperately throwing things at it, it can become more of a stress and less helpful. So I think you just got to accept it, and it takes time. And
your technique was a cold turkey, effectively, where overnight you took no more of that, and you did not use any products aside from that to assist you. I
tapered a bit, but it's very hard to get. It's not a tapering that is successful. So you can try. And I would get to like 2 or 3 weeks and then it was horrific. So I never managed to taper for longer than that. So I tried, but I would say I was a bit unsuccessful. And in the end, I just went cold turkey. Yeah. And all I did was moisturize. To start off with, I used a lot of Epiderm. That got me through the first 2 years. And then I decided the paraffin creams weren't great. So I'm now only using natural.
Absolutely. That seems a good point to end on, or at least I don't have any more questions for you. So thank you so much.